Okay, let's get right to it. I'm kind of fired up about this right now. And I mention that because this could all change. My opinion could completely change later on. I usually like to do slightly more thoughtful videos about movies and shows and video games and stuff, but this is not that. This is just completely off the cuff. Just very straight talk. Straight talk about a game called Metroid Dread and my feelings about it so far. I'm only about 5-6 hours into the game. So again, all of this could change. If I do end up finishing the game, who knows? Maybe I'll completely flip my opinion. But right now, there are a lot of things about the game that have frustrated me or contributed to me having a pretty negative experience with it, and I just wanted to talk about those while it's still fresh, while I'm still kind of in those feelings. So that's what we're going to do today. Quick background. Yes, this is my first time really playing a Metroid game. I've never finished a Metroid game before. I've played like maybe half an hour of Super Metroid, 20 minutes of the first Prime game, very little. Other than that, I've played plenty of indie Metroidvanias that have come out long since those games, stuff like the Bloodstained games, Gato Roboto, Blasphemous, which is excellent, Axiom Verge 2, which I don't like very much at all, but I've gotten a decent sampling of contemporary Metroidvania fare, all of which was heavily based on, of course, the classic Castlevania and Metroid games. I do have a great deal of respect for Metroid as a franchise. I have heard enough thoughtful criticism and discussion of the old games. There's a fire truck in front of my building. There's no fire. I don't know where the fire... My cat is not in a tree. I don't know what this is about. So I have a great deal of respect for the series and the little bits of the other Metroid games I've played. It's so clear the level of quality and care and incredible game design that's happening. And my biggest reason for buying Dread, I pre-ordered a physical copy, actually, was that I wanted to support the series. So many big gaming YouTubers, especially Nintendo gaming YouTubers, were talking about like, oh, this is Metroid's one chance. It's finally going to get a chance to sell a bunch. It's going to do great. And we're very excited. Everybody, please help out, And I did want to support the series. I do think it deserves better sales. I think it deserves more attention from wider audiences. So that's the biggest reason why I bought it, though I also expected to have a great time with it. I thought it'd be a fun time, and that my other experiences with Metroidvania games would flow into this, and that it would feel somewhat similar, and all that kind of stuff. Actually playing Dread, and yet another disclaimer, I'm not trying to tell anyone to not play the game. I'm not telling anyone that they shouldn't like the game. I'm not outright disagreeing with points that other people are bringing up in their reviews of the game. These are just my thoughts, and there's a chance that someone out there will happen to agree with me, have similar tastes in their gaming habits. So that's why I'm doing this at all. In case you're one of those people, I want to put my opinion out there just to give you an idea of what it's actually like to play the game. Aside from all the really, intricate critique we could talk about with regards to this game, there are two big questions I have when I'm trying to figure out my overall feelings of a game, either while I'm playing it or after the fact. There are two big questions. The first one is, do I want to get back into the game after I've stopped playing? Like, am I excited to go back to it later on for another session? And the second question is, do I actually enjoy my time when I'm in the game, when I'm actively playing it? The answer to both of those questions for me is not really. It's not a straight up no. I wouldn't say that I haven't enjoyed anything about Dread. I wouldn't say that I've never wanted to get back to it. But for the vast majority, most of the time when I go back to Dread and start playing it again, it's because I feel a sense of obligation to enjoy the game because I spent $60 on it. I mean, closer to $70 with tax and all that kind of stuff. It really has started to feel like a job, and that's a very bad sign to me, just in terms of how I'm interacting with the game. And that's not an experience I want to have. That's not something I look for in games. I don't want to feel that sense of obligation, like, oh, I gotta go back. I gotta finish this thing just so I can say that I finished it and move on. Like, I hate that feeling. I really do. And here, I just don't feel motivated to play it. And when I'm actively playing it, there's plenty to enjoy for sure. And there are things about it I really appreciate and respect. Like, Samus's movement is incredible. You've probably heard other people talking about this. Wonderful character movement and animations and canceling stuff. It feels fantastic, and that's really where some of the quality shows through. Like, this is a AAA thing. Like, this is a big deal. They clearly spend a lot of money and time on this project. It feels wonderful to control the character basically all of the time, with some really small exceptions. The environments are kind of neat. Some of the enemy designs are interesting to look at, and the enemies do keep you on your toes, and that side of the difficulty, the just moment-to-moment running through hallways and trying to get somewhere and not die, is actually very good. We'll be talking about difficulty in just a bit, but most of the time it feels like a game. It feels enjoyable. It is sort of, you can appreciate what they put together. The atmosphere is great. Music, I've never felt that it was all that memorable. Most of the time it's whatever. Very often when I pick up the game, or right after I put it down, I'm just thinking, I'd really rather be doing something else. And sure, you have to be in the right mood to play this kind of game. I get that too. You're not always in the mood to play a specific style of game, or a very stressful game like this one can be. But even beyond that, I find myself much more motivated to play almost anything else I have on my Switch rather than Dread. And I see the Metroid Dread case just hanging around the room, and I'm like, okay, I have to do it. Like, I have to go back to it at some point, and I just don't like that feeling. I do think the price is it's part of the issue here. It's not the entire issue. But do you remember, if you watch a lot of gaming YouTube stuff, if you were around for the discussion about this game soon after release, there was this brief window, maybe a week or so, when there was an active argument online about whether or not this game is worth $60. And a lot of the people I heard defending the price point ignored a lot of points in the discussion and just focused solely on, so we're not allowed to charge $60 for side scrollers or like 2.5D games. Like, that's ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. I completely agree with that point. The price is not dependent on the format that the game happens to be made in. 3D games aren't inherently worth more money. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think those people who just focused on that part of the argument, I think they ignored a lot of other really valid points. So specifically, I think the central question here was, is the game itself worth the price? Like, not just one specific aspect of it, is that worth the price? No, the whole thing, the whole package, is this worth spending $60 on? And at this point in time, I would probably say, no, I'm not getting my $60 worth out of the game. It's not just about runtime, it's not just about moment-to-moment gameplay, it's the entire experience and how it compares to experiences I've had with similar types of games that cost way less. And no matter what, no matter who you are in your situation, like, the price of a game and the price of any product sets expectations for that product. I get the sense that plenty of people talking about, so $60 is totally justified, it's Metroid, whatever, we're going to pay that no matter what. At least from what I've seen, the vast majority of those people making that argument are people who do gaming coverage professionally. And that means either you get a review code or a free copy somehow, or you can write off the price of the game on your taxes because it's a business expense. And I don't think that creates the same perspective of game value versus price as most of us have, who just have to buy the game ourselves if we want to play it. Especially for me, I'm happy to admit that, I don't make that much money, so $60 is always going to be, it's a lot of money. It just is. And I can't get around that. And I will maybe buy one $60 AAA game at full price on any given year. Like, I really don't do it that often. And so when I actually do it, my expectations are there. I wouldn't say they're incredibly high, but I want to have a really satisfying experience. I want to feel like I got my money's worth, and I want to feel like I'll look back fondly on my experience of playing the game. I just don't feel that way about Dread so far. Again, it could completely change. I could radically change my outlook after I finished it, if I do finish it. But right now, I'm just like, why on earth? Why did I'm happy to support the brand, I guess, sort of. But beyond that, I'm just kind of shrugging my shoulders and saying I'm glad that I got the physical, because it means that I can sell it off later if I really want to. I don't know. And I will admit that, maybe part of my negative experience with the game is that I'm just not that into stressful gaming experiences in general. Like Resident Evil, it's not my thing. I can respect what's happening there, but I don't personally enjoy it. Even super hard games, like I can get more into those than just plain stressful gaming experiences. That's kind of a different subgenre for me. Especially when watching the trailers for this game, I thought, oh, I'm gonna hate the Emmys. Like, why does this have to be the Switch Metroid game that I start with? Why couldn't I just get something more standard that doesn't have this weird stalker element and chase sequences? I'm not into that in games very much at all. But it turns out I'm fine with the Emmys. Like, I can handle them pretty okay, even without using all the power-ups sometimes. Like, it doesn't freak me out that much anymore. It's fine. I know where they are. I can find my way around them. If I die, whatever. It's just a matter of navigating to a certain part of the map to get away from them again. That part's fine. But instead, and this is what I didn't expect at all, the stuff that that has really contributed to this sense of stress and anxiety in a not fun way, boss fights and getting lost in the map. And I get that these are both integral components of Metroid games and Metroidvania games in general, I suppose. Like, you are supposed to explore. It does slow down at certain points. You have to remember where you need to go to unlock the thing. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't about finding places where I could use my power-ups. There were just times I spent at least 45 minutes completely lost in the hot zone in this game. Hope that's not a spoiler. There's like a lava zone. Absolutely no idea. None of the guides could help because it was such a specific issue that it was almost impossible to find how other people had gotten through it. And it wasn't a power-up blocked progression thing at all. It was just like a weird environmental thing that I didn't understand. I just didn't get it. The game didn't communicate it to me very well. And I hated it. And I haven't gotten super lost since then. I'm sure I will eventually. But I have learned this about myself. I don't like that here. I don't enjoy getting lost in a Metroid game. Other people certainly do. Plenty of people talk about how that's one of the best aspects of this genre. It's just not my thing. So in a way, I'm happy that I'm learning this stuff about myself via Metroid Dread. But ultimately, the outcome is, wow, I want to enjoy this, and I keep trying really hard to enjoy it. Like, I just put my head down, and I'm like, you're just gonna play this game. You're gonna figure it out. But it has, so far, it has not resulted in actual enjoyment. It just feels like a slog. And in terms of bosses, some people are into bosses that focus so much on pattern memorization, and they have your different phases, and you just have to know what to do when and how to take care of certain attacks. I don't. This is something else I have learned about myself because of Dread. I do not care, and I'll get through them. I'll put in the time. I'll do however many attempts. I think the first few real bosses have taken me somewhere between like 6 and 8 tries to get through. So still kind of a frustrating amount of time, and I do have very little patience for this kind of stuff. But even so, I'll get through them, and yeah, there is some kind of relief when you get to the other side of a boss, but it doesn't feel like accomplishment to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, good job, you learned how to do the thing better. I don't care. I don't care that I learned how to do a super specific thing in a game. That skill is not useful to me elsewhere. Like, why? Again, this is just me, super personal opinion. I don't see the appeal of that, and that's not one of the main reasons I play games. I don't want to try to master every mechanic and find out all the secrets and stuff and get really quick kills on bosses. No, I want to enjoy myself. I want to enjoy being in the world. I want to enjoy the central mechanics at any given moment. I want to go back to it. I want to have the urge to keep playing, and I don't have that here at all. And my final point, I promise it's my final point, and then I'll stop yelling at you. We can talk about difficulty, and everyone else on the internet has been talking about difficulty in video games for years, maybe even decades at this point. It's a hot button issue. I have my own opinions on it. In general, I love more options. I even have like a video series talking about how, examining the options that different games provide to players, and how more options is basically always a positive thing. I'm a huge proponent of difficulty modes. I know some people think that like that's weak game design, like, oh, you didn't have a central intention, you're watering down the experience for other people and all this kind of stuff. Bottom line, I think Metroid Dread needed at least one other difficulty mode other than ramping it up to a hard mode, which you unlock after the first run through. And here's the thing. Okay, sure, maybe you really feel that, oh, we need to have integrity here. It only has one this is the intended difficulty. That's the only thing we're going to give to players. But whatever, while you're dying on that hill, you're missing out on sales. Period. Like, you will scare people off with this difficulty. And as we've already discussed, this entire franchise for 20, 30 years has been struggling to sell, and it finally got its Switch release on one of the biggest console platforms in recent history, one of Nintendo's biggest platforms of all time, a very healthy system, tons of variety, tons of different types of people playing games on the Switch. And that's when you decided that it was time to not have options. And not only not have options, but yeah, Nintendo games tend to be way too easy. We know about that. People make up their own rules to have more challenge in a game. That's also bad. I agree, but I think having only one fixed difficulty, immediately pretty darn difficult, is just one of the stupidest things they could have done with Metroid's big shot. Like, this is the game. This is the chance for Metroid to get a lot more attention, to get more development resources, all kinds of stuff, to greenlight more projects. Why now? It boggles my mind. And again, I'm fine with this difficulty. It is a little frustrating at times, but if you have the patience, if you have the persistence to go through it, you'll get through it. It's fine. But that doesn't mean it's an enjoyable difficulty. And for me, this hasn't been enjoyable. I don't feel like I'm having fun when I overcome something really annoying and frustrating. I just feel like I'm never doing that again. That would discourage me from picking up the game for a second playthrough. I don't get it. I don't understand the thought process there. I mean, I'm sure on one hand they knew that their target audience for this game was people who've played a bunch of other Metroid games or Metroidvanias, people who are big on the series, people who are adults, who are experienced gaming people. God damn, man. Like, you are missing out on money. This isn't even about being a nice person. You could make more money if you gave us more options. And beyond just preference, it's an accessibility thing. Difficulty in games is absolutely about accessibility as well. The accessibility score on this game is basically 0. Nope. No different difficulties, you can't do this. I don't even know if it has like a high contrast mode for people who have difficulties with vision. It's not accessible. They didn't make an effort in that area at all, and that's almost more frustrating than just the difficulty thing alone. I guess they just had a specific audience in mind, and they made it for that audience. And yeah, plenty of people seem to be loving the game. I'm sure it'll get a great score from a lot of different outlets. It'll end up on Game of the Year lists, all that kind of stuff. I'm saying, for plenty of other people, if there's anyone else out there like me, if there's one other person on the internet who has similar gaming preferences to myself, who got into gaming relatively late in life, who's not heavily experienced in these types of games, this is frustrating to play, or just dull. And I don't think that's a good combination to have in your game, especially one that you want to sell and break records, something that you want to just shatter records for the franchise. I should probably stop, but I'll say for the very last time, all of this could change. This is just, I wanted to get something in the heat of the moment recorded here, just so I can share it with some other folks. And kind of as a word of warning, if you're really thinking about paying full price for the game, maybe wait for a sale, although I'm sure it'll only ever go on sale for like $43 twice a year for holiday stuff. Because that's what Nintendo does with their AAA stuff, first party releases. But seriously, like, please take this stuff into consideration. Maybe you'll love all the stuff that I've been talking about, or maybe like me, you'll be kind of underwhelmed and be like, I could have so much more fun playing something I bought for $10 or like $3 on sale, which has been the case for me. But that's all. I gotta stop. I'm sorry. I probably made someone angry, but that's all right. So thank you so much if you stuck around till the end of my angry internet rant. That's how I feel about the game right now, today on October 20th, 2021. Who knows? Who knows how I'll feel about it in the future? But for now, I'll say thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day. Please enjoy your day. Breathe outside air, at least for a little bit. Maybe get some lemonade with the pulp in there. It's such a treat, you know? Even just a nice cup of tea. These small things can really change the direction of your day. Okay, I gotta stop. Okay, bye.